Hi friend, my name is Ashok. In this video we build Angular 6 reactive form validations. Angular offers two type form. One is a template defined form and second is a reactive form. So what is the difference between template defined form and reactive form? So template defined form is make default use the native default attributes and ng module and template variability. In reactive form we don't need to use any attributes and template default directive like ng module etc, and this all thing we need to define on component.ts file using the form group form control etc. So let's we start. I have one form and there have a four basic field like first name, last name, email, password and button, and I use it bootstrap for reduce our timing for making UI of HTML. So here you can see in bootstrap have we made classes like is invalid for invalid fields, and for messages have a invalid feedback class for the display the messages. So we can use this. Let's go to the component file and let's start. First we need to import the reactive form module in app.module.ts files. So first import, I have used auto import, so reactive form module import from, so import, and you can see top of the import reactive form module from Angular forms. And now we need to go to component ts files. Here you can see forms, then have a last name, import invalid feedback, there is message, then have a last name, then have a invalid message we need to display if field is invalid, then have email have two type of emails, and have a passwords have a two type of message, one is required and one is password must be at least 6 characters, and then have a buttons. So first we need to go to the component.ts file and define the form group. So what is the form group? The form group is a set of the whole group, like in form have a 3 4 field is a form control, each input is a one form control, so each all form control will come in the form groups as a set of the group. So we define form equal new form, sorry, new form group. We use auto import, so we automatically imported from import form group from Angular forms. So we can define sorry, okay. So here we need to define control object and define, currently we have a 4 fields, so we need to define 4 input uh, for form control, like first name and form control new form con control using auto import, so automatically top is imported from control, and here we use, so you can see from control form state any, then have a validation ops functions, then have abstract control options, then scan validations. So we use first have a in default variable like in default string, like if you want to display like something one field, so this, and then have a validation measures, so we import validator, so automatically is imported top of the from the input groups, and import validator dot require. So this is create the form, and now we need to go to the form component ts file and define directory of form group, mm, group, sorry that have mistakes, group, and equal, we have created a form variable for the form groups, so we can use this here. Okay, now let's go to the browser, so form is working. Okay, and now we need to build function for the If this field is invalid, then we need to display the message, so we can use our form control is required. So if you like go to the form input field, and here we need to define form control name equal first name, and here we need logic for the apply bootstrap class if field is invalid, so use ng class I will reduce the screens so we can good motor. Okay, so here have logic and class name using bootstrap primary class like is invalid, copy this and here, and here have a logic, so we need to make function for the if this field is required, and we need to use form, then dot get for the get the form control, like we using first name, so copy this and here, and dot touch it, and again form dot get and component control name, then dot invalid. So this is simple syntax. If we form group, then get control, and if we touch it, and touch it means like on blur, in HTML have on blur, then it is a touch it. So then from get first name dot invalid, so go to the browsers and test. So here we can out of focus, then we display, you can display the you can see here first name is required message appear. If you enter anything, a message is gone, and if you click on outside, message will appear. This is simple logic. Now we need to define more controls on for the last name, so copy this and make array, and here change the name, last name is required, so we can copy this control, we define all the things for then email and password. So we have four field, first name, all the form, we have four form control like first name, last name, email and passwords. So first we need to define last name. Here we copy this all thing, this is okay, and thus change the form control name like last name to form control last name is invalid, first control last name and last name. Okay, so you can go to browser, last name, click up here, is last name is required. Now define for the email, change the name of control like email and last name to email. Okay, so here in email have two type of message. One is required, if field is empty, then we need to display email name is required, and second is email must be valid email address. So you can see if you click on, there are currently two messages will displays, but we need, if field is empty, then we need to display this message, and if field is if email enter is not validated, then we need to display email must be valid email address. So go to the component ts file and define more validation rules. So we need to use array and define one more control or more one function for validation like validations something mistake. Okay, validate teachers dot email. Okay, so here two rules, one is require and second is email is validate, email is perfect validator or not. So go to the component and define ng if and email is invalid. Copy this and paste here so you reduce over time, and then define ng if form control dot error dot require. So form dot get email form control name, then have a error is required. If this field is required, then display this message, and other his error his sorry email. So from dot get email dot error dot emails. So this message will display if email is invalid, and this message will display if field is required. So go to the browsers and check. You can see currently as one message is appear, email name is required. If you enter anything, then we display email must be valid email address. If you enter like ashok @gmail, then message is gone. Okay, so this is a simple rules. Now we need to define for email passwords. So copy this and go to the field and change the name of form control email to password, then email to password, and define ngdiff. And we need, here we have two messages, so we need to define two validator functions. So array, convert into array and define validators dot minimum length and 6. So we need 6 character for the passwords. So go to here and copy this in, paste in ng if, create the ng if. Sorry, my keyboard mistakes. ng if and password touched invalid, and now defines another for the password is required. So ng if form dot get dot password dot errors has required. So this message displays password is required, and another message. So we need copy and error dot minimum length. So this message will display password must be at least 6 character. Go to the browsers and you can see password is required. If you enter anything, then second message appear, password must be at least 6 characters. Okay, so this function all the, so it is a simple form control and form group and validator rules. If you have a one rule, you can directly put the validator dot require. If you have a 2 or more validator rules, then you can use the array. Okay, now we make display this button disable not form dot valid. So registration button is disable enable if form is form all fields valid. Currently is disabled. If you enter anything in first name like Ashok Prajapati, email ashok.gmail, and password is enter it, so button is enable it. So now we create the submit. We need to send all data and submit. So we create on submit functions, like on submit, and we make alert JSON, sorry, JSON dot string, and we got this dot form dot value. So in this syntax we get the all the form control variable values for send in backend. So go to the forms, and here we make use the ng directory, ng submit directory for the submit this form. So ng submit equal form dot valid and on submit. So on submit function is fire if form is validate. So go to the browsers, we for disables, and enter first name, last name Prajapati, and also @gmail, and password 3456. So button is appeared, and when you click on submit, error is fired. They have all the data entered in form, like first name, last name, email, and password. So friend, this is a simple reactive form validations